Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Matt Rome's Talking Skritt. I'm your host, Jim, and we're talking primarily about the ArenaNet Summer Roadmap update, which there's a bunch of stuff on, but I'll fully admit that they had me at World Boss updates, and just the rest of it went places. Something about Scarlet, I don't know who that is, but we'll get to that after talking a lot about the World Boss updates. So first, my co-host for the show, Arlie, she writes for MMORPG. She did a really cool list about her favorite raids from World of Warcraft recently. It's posted in our Discord and the World of Warcraft channel. Not so subtle plug, but how you doing, Arlie?
I'm good. How are you?
World Boss updates.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and then we're gonna switch back. Oh shit! I forgot to take off the messages. Okay, no, we're fine. We're good.
You want to hear something funny before we get talking about the World Boss updates, but it's related?
Okay.
They listed the Jungle Worm as one of the ones they're updating, and my brain went to Triple Trouble, and I was like, that wasn't an original one. What are they talking? Oh wait, there was one other.
Yep, I will fully admit I thought Triple Trouble too. For folks on YouTube, I'll have the link to the roadmap in the description. Chat, there's the link to the roadmap so you can follow along. June 2022. God, 2020 feels like 8 years ago. Back in the June update, they said they'd be back mid-July to share release the roadmap, and this got posted on the 13th, so here we go. First, I'm going to go in order, even though there's only one thing that I'm really happy about here. I'm happy about all of it, really, but like the World Boss updates have a special place in my heart, and I'll get to that. Third episode of Living World Season 1 on July 19th. This will be the Queen's Jubilee with the Watchwork Knights.
Silly Queen.
You're right, Emperor. They did do Plains of Ascalon dirty. They kind of cheated the Char out of having a world boss. Although I suppose if they were to go back and like amp it up, Duke Baradin, like the open world Duke Baradin, not the instanced version of like the Char starter quest, Duke Baradin could be a solid world boss.
Yeah. Although I always just took it as like the Char were so badass that they didn't let anybody in their lands get so much power that there would be like a big old world boss there.
Yeah, there's that too. They have enough patrols that it's never a problem. I actually think there is some kind of... There's an opening there for like a faux fire themed like world boss.
Yeah.
I don't know if they'd add that this many years in, but like it would be cool. But as a reminder, Living World Season 1 content is free for all players permanently.
Yay!
Which I love the fact that that is a thing. I am super happy that they did that. Now,
so the Queen's Jubilee update, that was one that was during the first pavilion event thing, right? With the Watchworks and all that.
Yeah.
Okay. Fun.
Yeah, it'll be nice to actually see that happen. Which I'm going to assume I think this is the step where the shattered holographic wings were available.
I don't remember, to be honest.
I want to say Deo told me that at some point.
Yeah.
So
I know I have them, but I think I thought I got them from Dragon Bash, and it turned out it wasn't Dragon Bash.
Could have been Dragon Bash, but like I missed out on so much. I'm not gonna be like, oh, I know what's going on until we hit the Nightmare Tower, which is when Arlie roped me back into playing the game a decade
the Nightmare
ago.
Tower was good.
The Nightmare Tower was good, but it was finding people to do it that was a huge problem. Don't throw you under the bus. I won't throw you under the bus. Why would I do that, Dale? I throw you under something classy, like a horse-drawn
like
carriage.
an Aston Martin.
Maybe an Aston Martin. I don't know. I know you can get the regular holographic wings from Dragon Bash right now. I'd have to look up if you can get the shattered ones.
Well, yeah, there was the holographic ones, which were like a grid pattern holograph. And then there was also the shattered ones, which were like all like kind of like crystalline holographic.
Yeah,
it was weird.
It was the exact same model, just like it had pieces. Like it was just like broken apart and stuff. It was really cool. I remember seeing them for the first time. I think they actually scaled them up because they used to be super tiny.
I remember the regular ones being super tiny, not the shattered ones. I used them for ages, though. Like, I love those ones.
I remember using the Spinal Blade backpack for the longest. They're going to be back in the game, aren't they?
Maybe, yeah.
You're going to be able to get the blueprints again, although I think there's still a really heavy supply on the trading post for the Spinal Blade blueprints. But that's a whole nother thing for the end of the Season 1 content. That's the Attack on Lion's Arch. The world's best world boss. Now, just going to read the first paragraph here. World boss encounters are some of the most unique and quintessential Guild Wars 2 experiences, with each requiring dozens of players to band together in pursuit of a common goal, defeating the baddie. They do an excellent job of showcasing the highly social and collaborative gameplay that Guild Wars 2 is known for. 4 of these world bosses reside in low-level starting zones, and are the first large-scale encounters that new players experience as they venture into the world of Tyria. These bosses were first introduced nearly 10 years ago, and since then we've significantly raised the bar on our encounter design standards. It's important that these encounters leave a strong first impression for newer players and continue to be enjoyable for veteran players, so we've given each a bit of love as we prepare for the future launch of Guild Wars 2 on Steam. Okay.
Yay.
So, this is the Great Jungle Worm, which is primarily for the Sylvari. The Shadow Behemoth, which is in Queensdale for humans. The Svanir Shaman Chieftain in... I can't remember the name of the zone.
Oh, shoot.
It's the Norn starter zone. Deo's going to be very mad at me in like 10 seconds whenever the stream catches up to him hearing this. And then Fire Elemental, which is in the remains of Thomanova Reactor. Right?
No.
No, that's not Thomanova?
No, I don't think that's Thomanova. Okay. Might be. Well, maybe it is.
But that's the Wayfarer Foothills. I knew it was Foothills. I couldn't remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is in the remains of Thomanova Reactor. Thank you.
Okay.
But yeah, the Fire Elemental in the remains of Thomanova Reactor. Again, Emperor spitting facts that the Char were done dirty in not getting a world boss. I wish they had one. But Shadow Behemoth will always hold a special place in my heart. Because Shadow Behemoth was the first world boss I ever encountered as a tiny little baby human elementalist when I first started playing the game. I was exploring Queensdale, as you do as a new player. Oof. Hat. You wound me. Ugh. It burns. But I'm walking through this swamp, and I'm like, oh, there's an awful lot of players here. And then the camera pulls back Quake style, and giant fucking shadow thing rears up out of the swamp. And I just have one of those moments and like, oh, hi. And then I die because I didn't notice the attack ring, and he just kind of goes whomp.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of my memory from for Savania too, because so I played my Sylvari Mesmer for like all of a week before I got bored, and then I switched to my Norn Ranger, and that's where I spent most of my time. And I had the exact same experience with the world boss there, just wandering into it, which is so just kind of unique for Guild Wars 2 to put something on that scale in a newbie zone.
Oh yeah,
really.
Absolutely. I think the only thing I ever saw that was to scale with that, and I know I compare a lot with World of Warcraft, is excuse me, the Worgen starter zone. But there was never a boss that was huge. It was just a battle. So, hi, Oscar. Okay, you good there?
Oh, he just wandered in and laid down behind you.
Yeah, well, that's where he lays when Krista's working, because we have a baby gate.
Oh.
But I think that's because Krista's in the living room and I'm in here, so now he can kind of keep an eye on both of us.
And both of you. So. Okay. They're so adorable. Yeah, you gotta like scooch a little to the side so we can keep a like clear view of him. Yay!
But talking Skritt, where we watch Mal's dog. That's what we're here for.
Yes.
But yeah, like I still to this day think that the Worgen starter bit is probably the best World of Warcraft has ever done with the starting area. But there was never a fight that was on a similar scale to a world
No.
boss.
And like also the thing with the starter areas in World of Warcraft is like that's where you go when you start, but nobody ever goes there otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's no real going back because there's no real reason to.
Yep.
Um
That night, I
whereas
think explicitly you cannot go back to Worgen Goblin or Pandaren starter zones.
yeah, I think that might be right. Maybe not Goblin, but maybe. I don't know. Either way, um the thing with like the world bosses is oh he left too. Even if you missed them while you were leveling in that zone,
Mm-hmm.
like there were various reasons to go back to those zones. So you
Mm-hmm.
could still wander upon them at any
Yeah,
time.
you can still like encounter them like just as part of the game without knowing
Mhm.
about the world boss meta. Hi, Daryl. But that and, like they're also key for a bunch of collections.
Mhm.
So you kind of do get pointed to go there by the game if you start digging through the collections for stuff.
Yeah.
I think most of them have unique skins that drop from them, which I'm assuming after this update they're definitely going to have if they don't have unique skins, they are absolutely going to.
Mhm.
Shadow Behemoth. Okay, so people are talking in chat about the fire. Like Hat brought up the fire elemental dying in 10 seconds, just like a regular elementalist.
Yeah.
Ouch.
Although that one, like Emperor pointed out, like it's particularly bad because I think the fire elemental is the only one out of all of them where there's a whole bunch of pre-events that you have to go through to get to it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like you're just fighting that boss, okay, it's dead. Like there's this whole long lead-in time
Yep.
before you get to that.
I think the most frustrating thing is the pre-event immediately before Fire Elemental, where you have to fight off the Inquest, but they
Mhm.
don't scale properly to
Yeah.
the number of
Yeah.
people there. So like, even the elites die in like
Mhm.
2 or 3 seconds, and they
Yeah.
don't spawn. It doesn't spawn very many elites.
Yeah.
There is a at least from Shadow
I just
Behemoth.
shot
There is a
that
staff.
last one. Yeah.
Right, yeah. The Fire Elemental is a lot slower. There are pre-events, I know, for Jungle Worm. I know there's pre-events for Shadow Behemoth. Those are the, like, you have
Right.
to handle, like, the Shadow Beast incursions in 3 separate
Yeah.
areas.
Well, all of those pre-events just never seemed like a big deal for the
Yeah.
other ones. Like the Shadow Behemoth one, I barely even noticed that it exists
I didn't
because
know that
again,
they existed until we were doing Shadow Behemoth after the Heart of Thorns pre-patch.
mm-hmm.
When we were like, oh, I wonder how, like, them changing the cap on conditions, like, damaging conditions will change the game. And we were like trying to see how fast the Shadow Behemoth died, and the Shadow Behemoth died significantly faster because yes. But
Yeah,
yeah, the unique Shadow Behemoth one is it's a scythe, and it was like one of the first ones in the game.
I think so.
Hang
That
on,
sounds right.
because I can just go to the wiki. Wiki.
I just remember everybody like always wanting it.
Yeah,
Yeah, conditions did go burr. Absolutely. It's
absolutely.
crazy.
Conditions went burr. Fire Elemental's pre-event is like take a shore of Shatrath in WoW. Yes. Oh
Yeah.
my god, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Defeat the Shadow Behemoth. A demonic chest spawns after its death.
Demonic.
There is I absolutely know that it only drops from here. I remember talking, or maybe it doesn't anymore. Final Rest. That's it. It's the
There you go.
gargoyle standing here. I'll just post the link in chat.
Oh, it's the gargoyle one where like
Where
the
the
wing
one
is.
wing is pointing
Yeah.
out. Yeah. Yeah. Final Rest is a unique skin to Shadow Behemoth.
Yeah.
Which also means that these are all probably going to get collections. Much like when they updated Shatterer.
Maybe. Yeah, I'm really excited about it. It'd be nice to have him be
Because what
interesting.
the pre-event for Jungle Worm is there's like a patrol with a Sylvari, and then there's the 3 champion husks that spawn.
All right. So if I remember correctly, well, maybe it's 2 different ones. I thought the one pre for the jungle worm started down. There's that area with the tree and the spiral area. There's a
Yep.
jumping puzzle there. I thought you had to defend that, and then you had to escort a person, and then it goes eventually to the jungle worm. It might be 2 different sets, though.
I couldn't tell you if Morgan's Spiral was involved with Jungle Worm.
Yeah, I can't remember.
I do remember the defense event you're talking about, but the only thing I've ever done for Jungle Worm was when I was on the World Boss train, and I'd get there and there'd be like some time before it, and there's like a patrol, and then a whole bunch of champion husks spawn. You do have to do an escort to get the worm to spawn. Okay.
But yeah.
Right, Emperor, that would be great. And, it's entirely possible it was like a 0.001% chance. And the devs were looking like, it is dropping because they have all of the metrics. And it's just like people are just being unlucky with the drops. But, like, I don't think it would have... They wouldn't say, yes, it's dropping without actually seeing drops on their end. But I can definitely guess that the drop rate was wrong.
Yeah.
And Emperor, you have a point, like having the world bosses tie a little more. They confirmed after they fixed it and it was set to 0. Okay.
Whoops.
Hey, shit happens, yo.
I'm sorry, it just reminds me of like the Final Fantasy lottery for the houses recently where 0 was a acceptable result for the lottery.
Did they have more than 1 0 pull for that?
Oh yeah. Yeah, there were lots.
Oh,
it was a whole thing because some people won theirs and then some people lost, but they were the only one entered.
Oh, that's right, because it would have been for every server for it doing that. Ugh.
And each plot had its own lottery and stuff because you had to sign up.
Yeah, I appreciate that they have like a housing system that isn't just instanced. Like every instance of housing is like a group of people in it.
Yeah, you can actually like wander around like you're wandering a neighborhood and stuff.
Yeah, Celeste has shown me some really crazy shit that house builders in Final Fantasy have done, and I feel like we almost have something like that in. Yeah, Deo, losing is the only entrant. Yeah, because the system rolled out of bounds for what you could pick. We're almost there with Guild Wars 2. We would need to implement like the actual housing plots like Final Fantasy has, because I think the tech is there with the guild decoration stuff. I just feel like they don't do a very good job of pointing people towards it.
Yeah.
We could definitely do like the apartment system that Final Fantasy has.
Yeah, I don't really want that though. Like, I don't know.
It's player house. That's a post-show thing. We'll talk about that later. But either way, like we're gonna be like they'll all have some model and texture quality improvements, and one champion loot bag will add it to the completion reward for each event. I'm fully expecting that we're gonna get collections for these, much like we got with Shatterer. Even though Shatterer, like these are all like baby's first world boss, so I don't expect them to be super complicated. Like, I'm not expecting the stuff on the same level as the Shatterer, but like
it would make sense if it's an introductory fight to the larger world to work as an introductory. Also, hey, collections.
Yeah, like it would be great. Like just one or like a couple collections, just a few, like 1 or 2, just to be like, hey, You come back and fight this thing multiple times, and you get this reward. And then you look at Zaitan redesign when? Never. Because the Zaitan fight is now a single-player instance part of the main
I was gonna say they've
story.
already redesigned it.
Yeah, they technically already redesigned it by making story mode for Ara a single-player instance. Yeah. So it's probably never going to happen, Emperor, unless much like the redo for Halloween for New Lion's Arch was like one guy working after hours.
Mm-hmm.
If that's how we get the Zaitan redesign, then maybe that's how we get the Zaitan redesign.
Yep. Oh.
But with that, like, I'm just looking forward to this, and it's 2 days. 2 days.
Yep.
Tuesday. Well, I guess that's what we're going to be doing on Tuesday night, Arlie.
What? World bosses?
We're going to be on the World Boss train. At least we should be able to run through like these 4 in the World Boss chain, and then we can get back to season 1.
I mean, depends if they're on that cycle.
Yeah.
You know.
I'll try and like remind myself to look at the World Boss schedule and make sure like I know when.
I mean, you could remind me because I have it up on a tab like all the time now.
Okay. But and then also Hat reminded me before we started the call for the show. When we do the Aether Blade retreat for season 1 replay, we can't kill Horik too fast. Because Hat said he one-shot Horik with Dragon Slash, and the game got stuck in an eternal cannon phase. So,
yay.
I hate to say this, but I will have to step away 1 second.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I know. I'll be back real quick. I'm sorry. Talk amongst yourselves. Free time in class.
Oh no. I hated that. Free time in class, talk amongst yourselves was always me looking around being like, I don't know what to talk about. You guys talk about something. All right, here's a question for chat before he comes back. Is anybody against them simplifying the rewards for raids? I'm curious. Maybe cares about it, I guess. Some people, I guess if you're not raiding, you probably don't care, but yeah. I'm really happy about the insights going to the currency. That's nice. I think it's stupid that they were an item in your bag. Yeah. While you're gone, I asked chat how they feel about the reward simplification for rating.
Oh, you mean our next topic? So you did the segue without me.
Yep, I did. Haha.
I feel left out, much like my experience with raiding, completely left out for years and years.
Yeah.
It's just, I have to admit, I hate being an adult. I miss the times when I could just sit here and raid for literally 6 hours and care. Quick question. I think redesign implementation of training group option has been successful. Arlie and I, not this past week. Sorry, I'm distracted.
Flying puppy.
Flying puppy. Hi, Oscar. He's a good boy. 15 or 16 pounds now. He is large. His ears are truly massive, Emperor.
Yep.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
I'm sure he'll grow into them.
Eventually, it's funnier when he gets a bath because he's very fluffy, and he's gonna be a fluffy corgi. So he's gonna like he has bits of his adult fur coming in, and it's twice the length of his little puppy, his fluffy puppy coat right now.
Deflate.
He'll deflate like when we when we give him a bath, like it slicks down all the fur on his head, and his hair, his ears look even bigger.
Even bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even funnier is his front legs look like they have like a huge crook in them, like right here. But in reality, he just has very fluffy sleeves.
Are you being good?
Ah,
You look like you need to take a nap again.
he does.
Okay. He's a very good boy. You know what? This is a perfect break before we talk about rating, because rating tends to, like, invite rage. So
I miss rating.
I miss rating
I don't
too.
like the elitism in rating.
Oh my god.
Relaxing. And having all of my free time still not be enough. That's why I stopped rating.
Yeah. Because that was... I still remember my first raid. It was Karazhan in World of Warcraft, back when it was active content. And I think we spent 6 hours in one Karazhan run. But that was,
easily.
that was the full... We did the full run. I also...
So that was not when it was still progression for them.
That was post Ice Crown, post Wrath of the Lich King. Pre-patch.
Oh, wow.
Emperor says thank you for bringing Oscar onto stream, dear. I am a gentleman. I will pass along your thanks. But yeah, and then my co-tank for the raid didn't know how to paladin tank because he was a Ret paladin right after the pre-patch, and everybody's like, "Oh, Ret's so good," and then he's like, "Oh, wait, I want to tank," and I've been tanking as a paladin for the entire time. I felt very annoyed because I'm like sitting there auto-attacking, and we were in the stables, and I'm like, why am I pulling aggro on both of these things? You should know how to do this. But completely different game. This is a Guild Wars 2 podcast, not a World of Warcraft podcast. Simplifying, improving raid rewards.
Yay!
We're proud of the gameplay that endgame content like raids offer, but the perceived high barrier to entry makes it somewhat of a niche game mode. There's a lot of opportunity to grow the endgame PvE community, and one of our goals this year is to break down some of the barriers discouraging players from jumping into the content. We feel that it's important for future Steam players to see that there's a healthy PvE community waiting for them at the endgame. I love that they are trying to smooth down some of the hard edges of this game. Now, granted, I do think that some... Okay, so I'm going to quote somebody who has spent an awful lot more time staring at MMO RPG content than I have, Josh Strife Hayes. I highly recommend his channel, and then also his Josh Strife Says channel, which is his stream cuts. Shared suffering is important to MMOs. That is one of the things that he came up with, because imagine for anybody who is an old person MMORPG player. So basically, if you're over the age of 30, remember back when we didn't have wikis.
Yep.
When we had text files on GameFAQs. And you had to scroll through it or Control F to find where you were looking for. There was no, for World of Warcraft, there was no Wowhead or Wowpedia. You had to just talk to people to figure out stuff.
Yep.
Or you had to go through forums, and forums are a very old form of Reddit for people who... Alakazam. Yeah, Alakazam. Yep. So
there was also, for World of Warcraft, ThoughtBot. The Hotbot, something like that.
Wowbot.
Yeah, which was okay, but not the best.
Yeah, but like old internet was not great for finding information. I don't want to see them smooth down everything, because one of the things that Josh points out is that if you smooth down everything, you have a lot of people that join the game, but the second they hit content where they suddenly have to try, they quit. Because suddenly it's not easy.
Right.
Also, you're right. Going to the local GameStop to pick up the Prima guide.
Well, that's the thing. Like, if you want to go from super easy to harder, you have to have a ramp to get them there.
Yes.
You can't just jump up.
Exactly. Which is one of the reasons why, to tie back to the previous topic, I'm really happy that they're updating the world bosses. Because even if you were to run at Shadow Behemoth with a bunch of level 12 characters, the Shadow Behemoth would not be hard. So, yes, exactly, Emperor Oz. The core game, like 1 to 80, like the original game that released, is super easy. There's no scaling into it. And then, to be honest, you hit Heart of Thorns, and suddenly the difficulty goes like this, and then you go back to Path of Fire, and it's back down here.
Which that still exists, because I'm part of a Guild Wars 2 group on Facebook, and I watch a lot of the posts in there, and I see people all the time saying that they just got to Heart of Thorns, and oh my god, it's so much harder.
The Mordrim do not care.
Yeah, it's fascinating to me that that is still a changeover that exists, because for me it feels like that content isn't hard at all anymore.
Sorry, I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing at what Emperor said. Yes, there's a lot of clenching in Heart. And that's the thing, is like, since we were there for release of Heart of Thorns, we know that the Heart of Thorns content that we have now is actually easier than what release was.
Yeah.
Like, the AI used to be harder to deal with.
Yeah, there's that, but then also we've had a lot of power creep with the various masteries and all of that.
The masteries even within the Heart of Thorns masteries, with people actually getting the Heart of Thorns masteries while it was current content.
Yeah. Well, that's like one of the things that when I was doing the preview for End of Dragons, I hadn't realized how much I take those masteries for granted because I've had them for so long. Even just the basic being able to glide forever, that fundamentally has changed how I engage with the content in a way that I hadn't realized until I lost that and, jumped off and then died and was like, oh, right. Gliding isn't endless by default.
Yep. Oh, wait, they didn't give you the Heart of Thorns masteries for the End of Dragons, like, closed testing? Oh.
Like, we had the basic mounts, but I don't think any of the lines unlocked. And then we had basic gliding.
So you were basically given a default account with just End of Dragons.
Basically, yeah.
Okay.
It's essentially like what a person would experience if they leveled to 80, bought End of Dragons, and skipped to that content.
And just went straight to End of Dragons content without touching Heart of Thorns or Path of Fire. Okay. So you had the Raptor and the Springer and basic gliding. Goodness.
Yeah. It was fine. Like, I got through it, but it was just really interesting to see how much all of that has changed how I played, and I didn't even realize it.
Yeah. I will say the one thing that I do, I want more ley lines for ley line gliding. Because I love that, and I want them to put more of that in the game. But, simplifying, improving raid rewards. We went.
I was going to say we've gone far afield.
Quite off topic, but that's normal for talking Skritt. So, one of the first steps they took is the Special Forces Training Area, which is the place with the DPS check golem. For people who don't have DPS meters, it actually does, when you fight the golem every 25%, it tells you what your DPS is in the chat log.
That's awesome.
Which is great, because I don't use DPS meters. I actually don't think I will ever use any add-ons for Guild Wars 2.
Yeah.
Because I already like the control scheme of the game, and I would rather just stay there.
Yeah. One thing I wish it would do is, if they're trying to make it more usable for players who aren't using the add-ons and stuff, I wish that they would also include, like, when he's telling you every 25% where your DPS is, there should be some indication of if that's good or if you're way off of where the mark should be. That's harder to do, but, like, I feel like they know in general, like, how much each person needs to do in a raid or whatever.
Well, yes. Every raid encounter would be dealt with, like, designed with, like, okay, there needs to be X amount of DPS in order to finish this before Enrage Timer or whatever mechanic does stuff.
Right.
Like, for example, Gorseval. Gorseval doesn't have an enrage timer. Gorseval just keeps casting World Ender faster and faster.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Because just getting the number, like, literally, if you get the number and you're like, oh, I'm doing 13,000 DPS, like,
Is that
whatever.
good or is that bad?
You have, yeah, you have no idea if you need to work on improving something or...
The game designer in me, and full fact, I've never designed a game, but like the aspiring game designer in me says that you do the DPS golem, you go into the encounter with your group, and if you fail, you're like, okay, my DPS was this using this gear and this rotation, I need to increase it.
Well, but then that's the problem because you're with a group in there and the group failed. So does everybody in the group need to do better, or is it just there's a few people who need to do better?
That's the thing, is that requires everybody going in to know the Special Forces training area exists, to know that the cat bot functions by telling you what your DPS is every 25%, and that they have to benchmark themselves, do the encounter, go back in, and be like, okay, what can I do to increase my DPS? And then trying, like, actively putting forth the effort to do so. Now, that's the problem, is that is the 100% altruistic take on how this should function.
Yeah.
Like,
well, and the other thing is that there are issues when you're comparing between professions and even builds within professions.
Right.
Like, if you're looking at one of the high DPS ones and you're like, oh, I should be doing that, but you're playing a profession that has a lower ceiling.
Right.
Or
that you're providing like support for your group. So your DPS is kind of expected to be lower. Right. I suppose that's the thing, is like you still have to fulfill your role mechanically, like with the output that you're doing. But you need to try and figure, like, that's the thing, is you need to be able to learn your numbers and try and, like, change your gear around a little bit to increase your DPS. It requires an amount of thought going into raiding that...
Well, and that's the problem, is I think that a lot of times getting good at raiding in Guild Wars 2, the way it's implemented, requires going outside of Guild Wars 2 a lot. Like... And I know that's true of pretty much every MMO that does raiding. But if they're looking to make more in-game ways to train and teach players and help them along to get where they need, making more of those tools in-game easily available is the way you kind of need to do.
Now, granted, in Guild Wars 2, you actually don't have to go out of game to complete a raid.
No, but like if you're trying to figure out like what you're doing wrong, what would be better, like if there's a better build you could use, or
that's the
even
thing.
to know you need to do better.
Well, but that's the thing, is like if your DPS is failing, everybody whose job is and technically everybody has a responsibility to do damage. Even healers and tanks in Guild Wars 2 have a responsibility to do damage. Like that's just the way the game is designed. You go in to the training area, which I still feel like they don't really point people towards the training area when you raid. Just the fact that like you can just walk in, and I love the fact that you can just walk in instead of having to form a squad. But you can just walk in and you're like, okay, I did this much damage, let me try and do more. That's just everybody in the raid, regardless of their role, should go into that and be like, okay, how can I do more damage? And sometimes doing more damage just involves, okay, I need to make sure that I don't go down to these mechanics. I need to learn these mechanics so I can spend more time actually dealing damage to the boss, so I'm not, like, running around like crazy, stuff like that.
But, like, those things are obvious. Like, if you're getting downed a lot, like, I mean, not everybody's going to make the connection, but I feel like it's not a high bar to expect somebody who's going down to be able to be like, oh, I'm failing mechanics, I need to do better.
I think the only person who could do more damage while down would be a necromancer, but I can't remember if that's still in the game.
But like if it's just low DPS and you're not failing at mechanics, it's harder to know if if you're doing enough or if you really need to improve, and if you need to improve, how do you improve?
Right.
Like,
Well, that's the how do I improve is like going outside the game, but that's just relying on. I say rely, and I feel like that has a negative connotation to it,
yeah.
but I don't mean it that way. Like if you go outside of the game and go to like meta battle, you are basically just using other people who have spent hours and hours and hours and hours trying everything to try and figure out what the best thing to do is. You're basically just skipping doing that yourself, and maybe you don't like have the brain to like wrap around all the theory crafting. Also, I forgot to mention he has his thumbs.
He does have that.
He has his dew claws.
Yeah.
Dog break while talking about rating, very important. My fluffy boy. Anyway, it's relying. No one wants to actually learn what their class does. You're always everything. All forms. And Deo, I did see your comment. Oh, okay.
It'll help.
It's me time. We're talking about rating.
Yeah,
I have the dog in my
okay.
lap. That works. But like everything with rating is you have to know your class. You have to read your tooltips. You have to understand like the basic combos of the weapon set that you're using. Like you're already going into structured, not even 5-man content. Even though fractals, I would say that like tier 3 and 4 fractals are on par in difficulty with rating, just because of all the extra shit that you have to deal with. Like rating in like strikes, that's just where everything is. It's just that you have 10 people instead of 5. That's just the bar. Like I don't know how ArenaNet can tell people that they need to care about how their class works more. Like I don't know how to tell longbow rangers that they don't need to use 4 on cooldown.
Yeah.
Like point blank shot is a utility skill, not something you use for a DPS rotation.
Right.
Having him in my lap really is making this easier.
Well, that's what I was just saying. Like, that was what I was trying to say is getting more people into raid and making it easier. Like with simplifying the rewards, first of all, that's awesome because like there were just too many different things. Like the fact that there were legendary divinations and legendary insights was kind of dumb.
Now that you bring that up, we never actually mentioned what the simplification was. It's all raid currency is going to be magnetite shards, and all of the raid like token items are going to be the legendary insights.
Yep. And legendary insights are going to be a currency.
Yep.
As they should have been.
I can get them out of my bank. I have a stack of them. Not a full stack, but I still have a stack of legendary insights that I can get rid of. Technically, Krista has more. Because she raided for a bit after I stopped raiding.
Well, I think that also will help because another issue for newer players getting into raid is if they're going after particular rewards, understanding how to get those rewards was convoluted, and it didn't really need to be.
And it's one of those things that I was complaining, like, it is this weird obsession with them not wanting people to access rewards for having a large amount of currency built up. Like, it was a problem in World of Warcraft when what was the old dungeon currency in Wrath? You had Valor and Heroic.
Oh, yeah,
like
something
the
like that.
emblems of Valor and emblems of Heroics.
Yeah.
And like one was for current dungeon content, and the other one was for like old dungeon content.
Yeah. And every time there was a new patch, we got a new one because you couldn't have saved.
It wasn't even new one. They just rolled they turned your heroics into the Valor.
Oh, that was eventually what they did. Before they did that, when they were trying it, I think at the end of BC, we kept getting new currencies.
That's right.
When they were testing it out, and it was.
I want to say it was like in the middle of Mists of Pandaria that they finally just said, new content is heroics, old content is Valor. Yeah.
Yeah.
But but the thing with World of Warcraft is every time there was a new tier of content, there were new stats to gain. There was more item level. In Guild Wars 2, it's weapons, it's skins and possibly different stat combos.
But also
and that's
legendary, like legendary armor and all of that you got through raiding.
Yeah, but see, the thing is, they gate the legendary stuff through collections as well that also involve, doing special things during the fights.
Yeah.
So I don't think they really need to gate us via currency now.
Yeah.
Or ever, to be honest. But okay, sorry, I took us off on a tangent to actually bring up, because you're talking about the simplification. New player stuff. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. I don't remember.
You were talking about new players seeing the complexity of the raid vendors.
Oh, yeah. So I think for most players, not all players, but the path into raiding is often driven by what can I get for doing this harder content. And sometimes, I think for figuring out the shiny thing that you want to chase that gives you the reason to be there in the first place, to try and learn how to play better and do all those things, which is hard, could be overwhelming to people. So I think that the streamlining of this will in the long run help in that, because at least people are like, okay, this is what I need to do to get this thing. It's more straightforward, so then they can work on the other things without also having to figure out all the currency crap.
Right. And to be honest, we have an awful lot of currency. We also have a lot of
crafting material. Sorry.
I was already complaining about crafting in the pre-show, dear. Let's not go back to that, because now that we're talking about currency, I'm thinking about research notes that are an untyped currency.
Oh my god.
If you go into the currency tab of your inventory, and you can only find research notes under all currencies.
Oh really?
Yep, they don't have a subset.
Yeah.
It just pisses me off. So we talked about the insights and the divinations, and those are going to be currencies, not an item. Challenge mode raid rewards are also seeing a major update. Going forward, completing any challenge mode raid encounter will award a bonus chest containing 2 gold, 2 provisioner tokens, 10 magnetite shards, bonus experience, and a random exotic item. This can be obtained once per week per encounter. Also, the top-tiered Terror Toppler achievement will be retired. And now
So
you
here's
have
my
your point.
question.
I'm going to look that up.
What was the reason to do challenge mode raid encounters before this change happened? Like, aside from just the challenge of doing something harder, what was the point, like, reward wise?
I don't know. GW2 raid challenge mode reward. Now, the thing is, this top-tiered Terror Toppler is a weekly raid thing. Complete 5 unique challenge mode raid encounters. It got you 10 gold a week. And the Terror Toppler's treasure.
Okay.
So, this rewards, which had 10 provisioner tokens and 5 gating crystals. So basically they're retiring the repeatable achievement, or the weekly achievement that would get you an equivalent. You're actually going to get more out of this.
Yeah.
Because if you do 5 unique challenges, you will get a similar amount, but as they add hopefully more raids into the game, we will get, like, if you're able to run all of the challenge modes in a raid, or in all of the raids every week, you will get more and more stuff out of it. So what they're saying here with this change is that you are going to get just as much for 5 encounters, and possibly more if you do more challenge mode encounters every week.
That works.
Yeah. I also really wish they would standardize, like, daily, weekly, monthly resets. Do we still have monthly resets?
I have no idea.
I don't remember. Exotics. There are still a random exotic off of the loot table hat, there are still some unique exotic skins that are worth an awful lot of money.
Yeah.
So it's better than the 2 blues and a green. And you also get the salvage gear out of it. Some of the runes and sigils you can get out of the exotic gear are really good. If you use your Black Lion kits on exotics like I do, you can get the insignia out of it. Some of the insignias sell really well.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not awful, but like I don't think exotics are as much of a reward in the game as they used to be. Especially for people doing raiding. Because like people doing raiding are people that probably, if they wanted the skin that they don't have, they either know how to get it very easily or they could just buy it.
Yeah.
But other than that, that's all the stuff with raiding, and I think that's the biggest deal, is the simplifying and making it easier to get into. And that on top of emboldened mode, I think is a huge deal.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Which I think we should probably try and get an emboldened mode group going on one of these weeks.
Yeah.
Because I'd like to actually experience it.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe we'll look up what's going on this week or next week, and we'll try and throw that together. And then the last thing they have here before the big picture to show like everything happening this summer, stabilizing fractal instabilities, which is not a sentence I thought I'd see, because if you stabilize an instability, it doesn't just become a nothing.
Yeah.
But the Mistlock instability system is intended to keep fractals in the mist feeling fresh, with each instability introducing a new twist that provides additional challenges when completing an encounter. However, some instability combinations have a tendency to be more frustrating than challenging or fun. In the July 19 update, we are making adjustments to nearly every Mistlock instability to reduce frustrating difficulty spikes, reward players for taking advantage of positive play opportunities, and increase synergy between instabilities across the board. A full breakdown of the changes and the design commentary for those changes will be waiting for you in the release notes on the 19th.
That's awesome.
Yes. I still have to admit, I'm not a huge fan of the instabilities. It's what, on a weekly reset?
I think so.
So, like, every week the instabilities are shuffled. Like, part of me feels like any given fractal should have X number of it, like, because they've outright stated that there are some fractals that should not have certain instabilities. Like, what was it, the unknown fractal, where you're climbing up like the remains of Radisum or something, and you have to do the platforming. The slippery floor one is one they banned from that,
right?
With good reason, because that's a nightmare. You already have to deal with units that do knockbacks while you're trying to fight your way up those platforming bits. Having the floor be slippery at the same time is just the worst idea.
Yeah.
The birds, you don't like getting Warhorn, Ranger Warhorn Ford all the time, Pat? Like, just permanently?
I love birds.
That's honestly one of the most satisfying skills to use in the game. I don't use a Warhorn on my Ranger just because, like, but it's just like horn birds.
Yeah. That's one of the reasons why I've used the Warhorn so long on my Ranger. It's just so fun to use.
It just feels very Hitchcock, and I agree with that. But, like, I don't know. Part of me always wanted to see, like, okay, so tier 1 fractals, you get no instabilities. Tier 2, you get 1. 3 is 2, and 4 is 3, if I recall correctly.
Yep.
But I feel like the instabilities should be randomized every time you go in. That's just me.
I don't think that's a good idea, just because what that would cause would be the going in, leaving to get the instabilities that you want for that one.
Okay. Yeah. You've got a point.
That would be terrible. I hate anytime there's a design where that is like the optimal way to do something. It drives me crazy. I don't like it.
Yeah, and that's the problem. Is like when you say it's the optimal way, it might shave 30 seconds off of the fractal run. But
Right.
people will spend.
But people will still insist that they have to do it.
It's like they'll spend the 5 minutes of re-rolling the instabilities for the fractal when all it's saving them is 30 seconds off the run.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right, Deo. I think that's what they had, and that's probably why they changed it in the first place. I just, ugh.
Mm-hmm.
But that's that, and that's cool. Like having the reasoning there. I hope that, because I know they keep banning certain instabilities from certain fractals. I hope they add more instabilities to the list, like more total instabilities.
Well, oh, you mean to have 4 or 5?
Yes.
Or, okay.
Well, not necessarily more instabilities to the fractal, but like more types of instabilities. Like
Yeah,
the
you
slippery
have to
floor,
be careful, though.
Right, because you have to make sure that it's not going to be like awful. But like you can't say, oh, this needs to be used on 100% of all fractals, because like, what is it, the social awkwardness, or the one where you can't group close to people, you can't stack.
I love that one.
Yeah, like that one's great, but I think that one's banned from Unknown again, because like you have to be able to like keep the party relatively close together when you're marching up the platforms. So I don't think just because it doesn't work in one fractal that they should strike it from the list. I think if they come up with an idea for a new instability and it's not awful for like 75% of the fractals, I think they should add it to the list. Stacking is dull. I hate stacking, Emperor. I absolutely loathe stacking in every single instance of stuff that it happens in. I hate it in raids, I hate it in fractals, I hate it in WW.
I like it as a mechanic, like for certain moments and stuff. Stacking up is fine, but like just having it be the default is
exactly
terrible.
Like that's the problem, is having stacking be the default is just awful. It's boring. So that's that. But we do have do you have anything else you want to talk about for fractals before we go to the big picture here?
No, I'm just looking forward to seeing the details of how they're adjusting all of that. Absolutely.
Yeah. And yeah, Emperor, you're right. With like, it definitely feels like, as much as I love the idea that the game balance is changing to like show that like, okay, I can do something to help my group, and it makes me feel good to help my group. But like, I also feel like a lot of the group synergy is going to cover up a lot of individual player bad habits. And that's not super great. But it's kind of the fine line of like, do you make the game super hardcore individualist? In which case, why is there group content? Why can't I do Fractal solo? Because I have to stand up on my own. Or is it group content, in which case you kind of murder the ability to play solo? So like... but the big summer roadmap is we've got Living World, season 1, episode 3 and 4. We're going to see the Festival of the Four Winds coming back. The Kralkatorrik Gen 3 Legendary Weapon variant, which, if making the Aurene weapons, again, like the number of times I've said this, if making the Aurene weapons is as awful as doing Gen 2 Legendaries, I don't know if I'm ever going to make them.
I was going to say, I know I've complained about it, and like I get frustrated with various parts of it, but I honestly don't think it's as bad.
Okay. Then maybe I'll make the Aurene weapons. I still haven't seen anyone use them.
I am far more annoyed by the Gen 3 because, well, what is so annoying about the Gen 2 is crafting the precursor that you need to then make the legendary. I haven't even gotten to that point. So it's kind of, I guess I'm kind of comparing apples and oranges, because I'm trying to make the precursor for Gen 2 currently, and that's just a nightmare. Whereas Gen 3, I have the precursor, I just need to craft the legendary. That part is not terrible. There are certain parts that annoy me, but it's not terrible.
And that's not the free precursor you got from the return achievement. It is?
Yeah.
Oh, you finished all the return achievements?
Not all of them. I just finished enough to get the precursor.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I still need to go back and do more, but...
Okay. Then clearly I haven't gotten that far in the season.
Yeah, I think we skipped a couple early. Oh, we
Oh,
never
and you
got
went
you the
back.
high collar, I think, and I had gotten that one,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
yeah.
But yeah, the Aurine weapons. I haven't seen anybody use them.
I haven't seen them either.
I haven't seen them in the wild, which is weird. But
Yeah.
the other thing, and this is people are probably wondering why I have the stream flagged as PvP. The gameplay systems, World Restructuring betas. So we're going to get
Yay.
more Alliance system betas, which is great.
Mhm.
Which is just more content for me to do.
Yeah, because last time we had the
Tuesdays and
beta, it was a
Thursdays.
lot of fun.
Yeah,
It was really
because
cool.
there was
Even though it has
fights.
buggy and stuff, but it was
Yeah.
fun.
But there were fights all the time. It was great.
Mhm.
It was not
Yeah.
difficult to find a map that was active. And this is gameplay systems core update.
Yeah,
I have no idea what that means.
me neither.
Like they didn't have anything in there in the blog post about this.
I hope it means. So my hope is, I hope it means the core maps are going to be updated, and then core professions will be updated. Because that's all of core systems.
Well, then that's the thing is like I don't know what's going on because core update, like core is the Guild Wars 2 we played 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a lot to update. I mean,
It is.
core is everything that season 2 and onward was based off of.
Mm-hmm.
So if you up that, it's a lot of the game, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm mostly hoping it's the core maps because they could all use an update in core professions. As we've talked about many times, the core professions are not keeping up.
One of the things that I remember seeing when they were like, yeah, Elementalist gameplay is for switching elements on a regular basis, and there are so many Elementalist traits that are tied to the element that they are in.
Mm-hmm.
So you lose out on the benefit after you swap out of it. So I'm really... I don't want to rant more about Elementalist design. But it's making me think of the example they used when they switched to the new trait system with, you remember the 1914 444 builds?
Mm-hmm. 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 Mm-hmm.
If anybody wants to hear me talk about that, I'll expound on that while exhaling dust in the post show. And then, save the date, the 10th anniversary of Guild Wars 2 and a Gamescom happy hour.
Yay!
That's going to be, the 10th anniversary is coming up in August. And
Yep.
I have actually been invited to be on a podcast on the Delco Nerd Network.
Ooh.
By one Fenris Gwynblade, otherwise known as Anthony Rigucci, one of the hosts of the Delco Nerd Network, for a 10-year anniversary podcast on Guild Wars 2.
Cool.
Let me look at the group. I didn't clear this with him to talk about it, but I'm doing it anyway because it'll be fun and I want people to see it. It's going to be one big pair, myself, Crichton Harold, and I think somebody else is hosting it because Fenris is going to be on vacation. But it's me, one big pair, and the Crichton Harold doing stuff.
Nice.
Along with one of the hosts from the Delco Nerd Network. I will when it gets posted. Fenris is really great at posting stuff in the self-promotion channel, Emperor.
Mm-hmm.
So he'll probably drop a link when that's going to be happening, and he'll definitely post a link when he posts it to the YouTube channel. So that'll be definitely showing up somewhere in the Mad Realms Discord. But yeah, like 10 years of Guild Wars 2.
Mm-hmm.
And it's still one of the most solid MMOs, I think, ever. I know I rag on World of Warcraft a lot, but I feel like World of Warcraft also coasts a lot on its reputation.
Mm-hmm.
It is impressive that World of Warcraft has lasted as long as it has, but I don't know, like... I don't even know how to organize my thoughts on that, so I'm going to stop.
One thing real quick I just noticed looking at this roadmap
Mm-hmm.
is that, like, a lot of these updates have multiple things listed. The August 23 one is just the 10-year anniversary, so I'm wondering if maybe that's going to be a bigger to-do than the anniversary usually is.
Yeah.
As I mean, 10 is a milestone,
It's
really.
a decade is a long time for any
Mm-hmm.
service game.
Yeah.
Like, games as a service is littered with the corpses of games that didn't even make it 2 years.
Right. Right.
Pour one out for Anthem.
Or 1 year,
Or, yeah,
really.
or even one. Yeah, I don't think Anthem made it 1 year.
Pour one out
Nope.
for Wildstar.
Hashtag poor Wildstar.
Yeah.
Go back to that. And you're
Here, that one killed itself.
yeah, Wildstar murdered itself. So yeah, you're talking about the dates. July 19th, so 2 days from now. Season 1 Ep 3, World Boss improvements, Raid reward changes, the Fractal update. August 2nd is the Festival of the Four Winds, the Krauk legendary skins, and the big balance update on the 2nd. You were 18 when this came out? Oh, you baby.
I know. Aw.
Emperor baby. That's okay. I'm like I said, old man exhaling dust over here. August 23rd, I share a birthday
Yay.
with the game. Yay. And then September 13th, Season 1, Ep 4.
Yeah. I mean, and it also could just be that those two are so far out they don't know everything that's going to be in those updates
Right.
yet. That's fine. But I'm really kind of hoping that the 10-year anniversary will be like a whole like event thing, you know?
You can tell the whole stream for post show. We're gonna wrap up. We have one more thing to mention, and that is the wrapping up, which is ironically the subtitle for the last section on here, is talking about the Harvest Temple Strike mission CM.
Yeah.
Snow Crows took 5 days of attempts on the CM for Harvest Temple, for the Harvest Temple Strike, and they beat it. They had the world first clear after 5 days. Now, Arlie and I were talking about this pre-show. I think some of the longest clears in like World of Warcraft history for raids is like weeks, right? Like a week or two.
I mean, depends on how far you look back, but usually it takes about a week, maybe a little over at this point.
Okay, so that's world first clears for a raid in World of Warcraft.
Yeah.
Takes
And that's like
roughly
a week from when it's available, because
Right.
usually the Mythic isn't available right when the patch launches. So.
Right. So not only, but it's going to be similar because like the Harvest Temple was out, and then they introduced the CM. So it's like they knew the base mechanics. This is 5 days on a single encounter.
Yep.
So that would if it took this much time for single encounter clears in other MMORPGs, you're looking at like a month for other raids and other games for first clears. I honestly think that this is kind of a testament to how, and this is Snow Crows, like one of the groups that is renowned for their theory crafting and like knowing the game, right? So 5 days for a single challenge mode, that's... And if it was all Mechanists and Firebrands, I didn't get to watch the VOD yet. I'd have to watch it. But, like... I mean, you use what's broken, right?
Yeah, just to give, like, a comparative, like, they don't say how many days, but, so... The Anduin boss on the current raid tier is literally one of the hardest bosses that they have ever made, World of Warcraft. And it took who was it? It took Liquid 216 pulls to kill him. Yeah.
Wow.
But I don't think that equates anywhere near to 5 days at all.
Yeah. But like, one, super impressive. Good job, Snow Crows. Fantastic. 2, that's our show, unless you have anything else, Arlie.
I don't think so.
Okay, cool. Which means it's outro time. So, Arlie, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Arlie82.
Awesome. And you can find my face on Twitter at MalthanusMMO. You can find me here on Talking Skritt, or Mad Realms. That's 2 A's in the Mad. Twitch.tv/Mad Realms. Tuesdays, Thursdays, Saturdays. Tuesdays and Thursdays, 8 p.m. Eastern. Saturdays, usually for Talking Skritt. Sadly, adulting got in the way this week, but we still got to do the show. Yeah, we still got to do the show this week. But Tuesday we're probably gonna see if we can fit a few of the new world bosses in, and then do some more season 1. But we'll see you on Tuesday night, everybody. So catch you in the game. Bye, friends.